Hi, everybody. It is an absolute
Hi.
pleasure to be here today. And welcome to this session for the Ananke Women in Literature Festival 2025. I'm Dr. Shalini Malik. I am a writer and a doctor. I have written two books, and my third book will be released very soon. That is a collection of short stories relevant to the theme we'll be talking about today. And I like writing about personal growth, women's identity, mental health. These are some of the topics that I touch upon in my writing. I'm absolutely honored to have a spectacular panel today. And let me introduce you to the panelists for the day, and then we will proceed with the topic for the day. So, the first I have Devapriya Ghosh. Welcome, Devapriya.
Thank you so much,
Devapriya,
Ali.
my pleasure. Devapriya has been an educator for the past 25 years. And she has this prolific list of degrees, which I've had to edit because we nearly, but she has a master's degree in English literature, a diploma in mass communication, and she has certifications in childhood education and psychotherapy. So that is a a very deep experience that she's bringing to this discussion.
So much.
She's the author of two books. Her first book, And You Think I Don't Know, was a novel published by Readomania, a women centric novel, in 2023. And in 2024, she has released a book called The World of Tagore, which is a translation of 10 of Tagore. In addition to her prolific writing and other activities, she provides a platform to small scale women entrepreneurs through her brand of exhibitions called Vijoini. So, welcome once more, Devipriya, and I look forward to this discussion.
Thank you so much, Ali.
I am alumni. Smita Das Jain is the author of four acclaimed fiction books. She's the co-author of one of a New York Times bestseller non-fiction book and contributed to 9 anthologies. She's also won many writing contests, the most prestigious one, Bharat Award for Literature. And short stories are Smita's favorite format, and her short stories have been featured extensively in national and international magazines and platforms. Smita is also a three-time TEDx speaker and an award-winning life and executive coach. Welcome, Smita. It's an absolute pleasure to be in conversation with you today.
Thank you, Shalini, and the pleasure is all mine. I'm so excited to be a part of this eclectic panel and looking forward to our discussion today.
Thank you. Next, we have Sujata Rajpal. So, Sujata is an author, a freelance writer, and a TEDx speaker. She has a very long and a very prolific corporate career behind her, and now she is a full time writer. She has written for esteemed publications like the New Indian Express, Deccan Herald, and the Tribune, and she has authored three books. The Other End of the Corridor and The Life I Saw are her previous publications, and her latest book is Things Left Unsaid, which is a collection of short stories, a very recent release by Readomania. Sujata is an active member of the Toastmasters International, and when she's not writing, she is refining her elocution craft. So I'm sure we will have a very prolific interaction with her as well. Now coming to
Thank you.
the topic
Thank you,
that
Shah.
my pleasure, Sujata. So, the theme for today is emerging voices in South Asia, short stories, narrative form, and their circulation. And I think it's a very exciting topic given the fact that Heart Lamp was just shortlisted for the Booker Prize. The Commonwealth Short Story Prize shortlist came out just, I think, not even a week back, and that has representation from three of the South Asian countries, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So that tells us how timely and relevant the topic that we're talking about today is. And also, so short stories are not new to South Asia, right? South Asia is a very diverse area in terms of not just language, religion, culture, practices. It's very diverse. And even within South Asia, you have, even in India, for example, a person in a single state might be writing in as many as two to three languages. So it's very rich and diverse, and short stories reflect the diversity of the region. Short stories also, of course, reflect the timeline of the region because you had the languages of so called regional languages, which we call them now, followed by English writing in South Asia, which happened with colonialism. and now you have both flourishing. One has not happened at the cost of the other, and I think that is again a very vibrant thing. So, starting with the timelessness of short stories, Devapriya, you have chosen to retell Tagore, which I think is absolutely amazing because for me, one of my abiding childhood memories is listening to Kabuliwala. I mean, I read it, I listened to it before I read it. So, what made you pick Tagore? How did you, select the stories, and what kind of impact has it had? The book that you've released. Will you please tell us about that?
Sure, certainly, Shalini. See, growing up in Bengal, Tagore has been more of a family member and a very common emotion, I think.
Yes.
Like the way we celebrate Poila Boishak or the pujas, we celebrate Rabindra Jayanti.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that's one day when if we don't get a holiday, we like to go to school to participate in the song, dance, and elocution, so on and so forth. But there is a challenge that we as parents have been facing that. Of course, Dipankar has also pointed out to me, and Indrani also agrees with the same, that we as parents, we are not being able to give as much of Tagore to our children as they should be getting. And why I'm using the word should is because of the sheer wealth of Tagore's literature.
Yeah.
So today, unfortunately, Rabindranath Tagore has become restricted to the school curriculum. Right. So being a teacher, I only teach one of Tagore's prose and one poetry for ICSE and ISC. So which I think at Readomania, both Dipankar and Indrani I felt that, this is not enough of Tagore that they should be getting exposure to. Because if there's something, there's a treasure, and by just a switch of language, you can, make it accessible to a whole new generation, then we'll be continuing with the legacy. Otherwise, it's going to become extinct very soon. Because, the anthology, the Bengali anthology of Tagore, Golpoguchu, it's very thick. And anything that is thick, except for Harry Potter, perhaps, is intimidating to our children.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to read. So we decided that we are going to take 10 of his short stories, the best known ones. And most of them have already had cinematic adaptations. And they have used songs that our children know, perhaps, And we thought that, okay, let's take stories where there are different characters and different emotions. So I worked on that. I made an almost literal translation and then cut it short, and Indrani went ahead with her fabulous editing, as we all know. And then the book was out. Now, this was a book that was meant mainly for children. I did visit a couple of schools. The book was well received. And I was a little surprised because children who had not read any of the stories earlier, they came up with a lot of points of their own, to ponder on. Like when they read Kabuliwala, they asked a lot of interesting questions. What is a Kabuliwala? We don't know them. We haven't seen them. I mean, why was dry fruit sold from door to door? And that also someone coming from Kabul, because nowadays you have everything online. So I was so glad that, we could stir the curiosity of the children.
Yeah.
And another impact that it had, it made them open up to a wealth of emotions. Like one of the stories, Aditi, the guest that we also do for our both syllabus, that is about a boy who is scared of relationships and he runs away as soon as he gets attached to something or someone. And a lot of my adolescent students, teenagers, they came up to me and they said that, perhaps I have a bit of that person in me. So, to, stir their emotions and curiosity in so many ways, I think it was a very nice process which we've begun through the book. And as I will be reaching out to more of them, visiting schools, and I think there'll be much more to share with them and more introspection done by me as an author, the children, and the teachers. The next step will obviously have to be done by the teachers. They've got to take the book across as such.
Very, absolutely beautiful, and best of luck with that. I'm sure that will happen.
Thank you so much, Shalini. And since Smita has, in your introduction, Shalini, you said that Smita's forte and her favorite form of writing is short stories. So, Smita, having written so many short stories, what are the trends, the changing trends that you notice in the space of South Asian short stories, contemporary short stories, and how much are you impacted by those trends? I mean, do you use them while you're reading or you're writing?
Thank you, Devapriya. Hearing the question come from you, no doubt you are an educator, because that's a very intellectual question that can come from someone like you. And let me say that the passion with which you were speaking about Tagore, that was very palpable. So well done with that work, and I'm sure it will resonate a lot with children. Now, coming to your question with regards to trends. I honestly believe we are in a fascinating phase for South Asian short stories. In particular, if there are three trends that stand out for me. First, there's a rise in personal political narratives. Now, writers are blending internal dilemmas with societal structures, gender roles, class conflicts, and systemic injustice. You see this in works by writers like Arundhati Roy, or in the flash fiction of writers like Tanya James, where a small movement often reflects larger realities. And my writing, in fact, I would say, and I write both fiction and non-fiction, whether they are short stories or whether they are novels, I try to reflect this fact: a small movement, being a precursor to a much larger questions that the world or the society faces. These are reflected in my writing too. For instance, in my story, Net Worth, that came in the top 10 stories in the Bharat Award for Literature this year, a character's mental state of mind becomes a lens of what's happening in the society today, both professionally and emotionally. So that interplay of personal choices and external pressures is something I keep returning to in my story. So even though my stories are different, somewhere that interplay between choices and external pressure comes out either through main characters or the plot, or sometimes even the secondary characters. Now, the second trend that I see is the return to domestic and psychological realism. So, stories that take place in kitchens, bedrooms, workplaces, they speak volumes about inner turmoil. Now, in my own short story collections, something like A Twisted Tales and Turns, which is a multi-genre 20 short story collection with a twist at the end. Now, characters across all stories navigate dilemmas within familiar settings. And in the stories, I also see the experimentation in form. So, stories with non-linear timelines, dual perspectives, even mixed media elements. My first novel, A Price to Love, was in fact, it had a very non-linear timeline, back and forth, a flashback format. And lastly, I can go on and on about the role of digital platforms and contests in globalizing emerging voices. When I started writing 4 years ago, it is stories published in platforms like the Wow or Penmancy that gave me that confidence. So I was an emerging voice 4 years ago, and these digital platforms became a game changer for me, which I'm sure is true for a lot of writers, whether they be from South Asia or from other corners of the globe. And I know this subject of digital platforms itself is fascinating, and maybe we will talk about it more later in our conversation. But as we move forward now, I am curious to ask Sujata a question. So, Sujata,
Yes, Smita.
do you think the short story form offers a more immediate way to express difficult theme or circumstances? And why writers turn to short fiction instead of long form narratives in such moments or even in times of vulnerability?
Yes, definitely. Short stories provide immediate like catharsis, what I will say. And unlike in a novel, in short stories, there are no fillers or delays. Like you are dropped, the writer or the reader, it dropped right into the tension, into the conflict. And that's how there is no room for any fillers. So, and each word counts. Each sentence takes the story forward. So a chapter in a novel is perhaps sometime equal to one paragraph in a story. So that it has to do that justice, and that is the reason it is a most appropriate platform, the short stories play, to express emotional crisis, to some disappointing or such kind of experiences, which a novel, because in a novel you have to just go on and on, you have to fill 300 pages probably, but in a short story you have to do justice within 3000 words or something like that. So, and in a, talking about the timely thing, suppose in a political crisis, in a social crisis, cultural crisis, these crises can be expressed, experiences can be expressed through short stories much better than we can do through novels. Like talking about the during COVID. So by my recent book, which has 14 short stories, so 12 stories are about various other emotions, but two stories are about COVID situations. Where elderly parents are living in India, and they have two children, and both are abroad. So the mother gets COVID, and children don't know in which hospital she has been taken, because there was such a kind of social stigma about COVID, and whether she is alive, she is not alive. And the story is named I Have Found the Charger, and the father has Alzheimer's, and he has misplaced the charger. So the son cannot even reach the father. He says, I would have ordered a charger on Amazon, but there is no online delivery. So these kind of emotional crises and experiences can be expressed only through short stories. A novel cannot be written, because here we are talking only about one thing. Whereas in novel you have to talk about 100 other things. So if you want to focus on the current situation, the emotional crisis, disappointments, other kind of feelings, it has to be done only through stories, and they leave such a beautiful impact. Like I'm remembering the story by Jhumpa Lahiri, a temporary matter. If you have read. So here she talks about just one incident, but where the husband and wife, they have not very cordial relation, and when there is no power in the house for few days, and how they in the dark, how they uh, converse. So in a short story, the message is really impactful, but it's a short story. Yes. So, Shalini, what do you think about it? Do you want to add anything to what I have said?
First, I think you put it so beautifully, that emotion for short story was so obvious in the way you said it. I completely agree. So, yes, one is, of course, the immediacy of a situation. When I'm responding to something, I would feel that a short story is better, like you said, COVID, or I mean, I was writing in response to the Kolkata rape case, so that came out from me in the form of short stories. So you're very right. It is instant kind of a catharsis, probably more for the writer, where I think we also sort of transferring some of our anguish to the reader, by leaving it there. But there's also one more thing that, so I would prefer to use, or I think writers would prefer to go to short stories for things which are not resolved. Like in a novel, even in a short story, our arc is obviously there. But having said that, the resolution of those feelings does not always happen, and the reader is okay with that. But the same thing in a novel is not always acceptable to the reader, because when they are or even when we as a writer are investing ourselves in 200 to 300 pages, we want a lot of those baggages, a lot of those feelings to be resolved or to have a positive outlet. But in a short story, it is okay. It is sort of an understanding between the reader and the writer that this is a feeling which is not nice, it is not negative, and we are not going to be able to fix it. So for me, in that sense, it represents a lot of life, that things, and I think that is also how they connect. So that is, I think, a major thing. And then, of course, the standard thing that long form narratives will take a lot of time in coming out. So if you're writing in response to a political situation, the timeliness and the topicality of that situation is another factor which might influence the author. Sometimes a short story may also start as a short story, as a seed, and then grow into a novel. That also happens. I think all of us would have one example in our heads about when that happened to us. So I think it's about where you are, where the world is, and what it is at that moment that you want to put out there. So that's what I think. It works like that for me. So, and on a related note, all of us here have written both short form and long form, right? So, and I'm curious, taking off from what Sujata said. So, how does your approach, all of us, when we are writing, to character development or plot or anything else? How is that different vis-a-vis the short story or the novel when we are writing? So, Mr. Jata, why don't you tell us that?
Yeah, in a novel, it's not just one character. First, there are many characters, and the character has to be developed. The character has to have layers. Whereas in a short story, it is just because it is theme based short story. So there is just one aspect of the person's personality that we can show. Whereas in a novel, it has to be really, everything. Like for my book, The Second Chance, where we are talking about a widow. She has recently lost her husband, and she is kind of a balance, trying to find a balance. There is a conflict in her own emotions and what society expects from her. So those kind of conflicting emotions are in her mind, and she's trying to balance both. So here I have just focused only on that part of her personality. Whereas if I was suppose converting into a novel, then I would have to have everything about her. But in a short story, it's just one, and there cannot be too many characters. And even if there's just everything, even the emotions, everything has to be at the surface level. We cannot dig deep. It is beautiful, but still, in spite of that, the short stories have a deep impact because we are playing only with one emotion. There is only one thing. So they have a it cannot be, their importance cannot be undermined just because it is a 3,000 word versus a 300-page book. But short stories can also have a beautiful impact on emotions.
Absolutely. Smita, what do you think about that? Because you also do a lot of both.
Yeah, so Sujata put it beautifully. I agree to that. So when writing a short story, Shalini, my focus is on intensity. Every word, every moment needs to count. There's very little room for long backstories or subplot. So while a long form will have secondary characters, it will have subplots, and there will be some build up before we get to know what the story is about. A short story, as Sujata said, often revolves around one core event or emotional turning point, and characters must emerge quickly and have immediate clear motivations. In fact, some of my short stories have only one character because there's no one, the story required that, and second, in any case in this format, which is anywhere between 3,000 to 10,000 words, there is very limited room for characters, so each character has to count. Now, for instance, in Purchase Love, the story which won the Bharat Award for Literature and is also one of the stories in my book Twisted Tales and Turns, I used a single moment of surprise to reveal deep emotional truths about the main character, the two other secondary characters they were there, and also about the society. Now that worked obviously for the story to have won the prize it did. Now, in contrast, with the novel, there's room to develop more complex, layered characters over time. You would remember my character Sonia from A Price to Love, a very complex character who remained complex till the end. Now, I don't think there would have been room for me to do full justice to that kind of character in a 2000 to 3000 word format. In a novel, I could. Similarly, in my latest novel, Till Faith Do Us Part, now the protagonist evolved through different situations. Even though when I look at the timeline of the story, it is all taking place in a span of a few months. So the timeline isn't stretched. Still, the protagonist evolved through different situations and their relationships grow. And that's what a novel provides us. There's a space for flashbacks, subplots, secondary characters, as I earlier said. So a novel allows the room for gradual emotional shifts where characters can experience a deeper arc. So, in essence, in short stories, brevity and sharp focus are key, while novels allow for more exploration of both character and plot, also providing rooms for sub themes and secondary relationships. But the key is always the same in both. Each character must drive the story forward in a way that feels authentic and meaningful, whether it is a short format or whether it is a novel.
Absolutely agree. Completely. Devapriya, what about you? You've also done both, and the content of your long form and short form is also very different. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Right, right. I loved what Smita said. Like, you have this richness of subplots and characters and everything in a novel. You have all the time in the world, and like to me, the short story is the perfect playing ground for mind games because it's like you have very limited time and space, limited characters, limited vocabulary, right, and limited rhetoric and what have you, but you have to make that impact. It's like if you are comparing a 2.5 hours film with one episode of a series, a single episode where it just comes to an end in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But you're looking for the same kind of impact. So there you really have to get into the mind of the reader even before you serve your dish. So, that's why I prefer to call it a mind game, that, all right, because in my debut novel, and you think I don't know, I mean, though it's a novel, it's something like, what Shalini, you had said that, maybe you begin with a short story and then it becomes a full-fledged novel. Perhaps it was a story of just one girl that I wanted to say. And then I thought of someone else, that why not tell her story? So the novel is very episodic. But because there is a chain, a common link between the characters, that is why it evolved into a novel. Otherwise, perhaps it would have been a set of short stories.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a short story is a very difficult medium because of all the limitations. And there, I think, as an author, your art, your creativity, I should say the challenge is very high. So your art needs to be perfect. You need to be at the best of your artistic abilities. So I mean,
Very
and
true.
each of these stories that I had selected and written on Tagore, um, I don't think that any reader would think after reading the story that it's not finished. No, because they're 19th century stories and they had very definitive endings. But today, as as Smita said, that we've entered into the digital space. Short stories are being kept very open ended,
Yeah.
where the reader is left with an option that, okay, if I were to finish the story, something is not said in the end, then how would I have dealt with it? So it's very interesting, and I really take it up as a challenge, and I really definitely want to do more short stories in the future. So Shalini, you have perhaps all of us, Sujata, Smita, you have noticed that how a South Asian diaspora has been sort of projected through short stories to the West. Like, for example, Jhumpa Lahiri. In each of her short stories, like, the interpreter of maladies, we have been shown as a very distinct culture. So, how have you, Shalini, thought about it? What is your take on it?
I agree. This is a very very significant area which is happening, and for me, it is actually it feels like a separate phase because the immigrant experience is a unique one. It is as unique as all of us starting to write in English, which would never have happened if colonialism had never happened, right? So that experience of people going out of the country, taking a part of the country with them, is a very, very relevant experience and it needs to be chronicled. More so because, you know what, the diaspora there is also a very, very huge readership of Asian voices. So it works both ways. They to find themselves reflected in that setting, to chronicle those experiences is as important for the people there and the people here. It's a the amount of immigration which has happened over the last 4 or 5 decades is phenomenal, and now it is even more relevant with the changing trends because now you see changes in immigration patterns. The challenges are different. If you see now, you have the second and the third generation of people there, so for them it is actually in a way like Tagore stories maintain the constancy. For them, these kind of literatures which bridge their lives, the lives that they are leading and the lives that they left behind. I think it's very important. And of course, Jhumpa Lahiri is one person who's doing it. I think it's reflected in almost everyone's writings, even on a day-to-day basis. Even if you read our writings, which are based here, we will probably have characters who are belonging to the diaspora and we will be projecting them the way we see them. For example, in Stars from the Borderless Sea, the protagonist of the first story has migrated there later in life. She's a grandmother. But she draws parallels between the life that she led here as a young woman and the life that she's leading there as a grandmother. So, those parallels, those juxtapositions are very important to document because they give that food for thought. how similar are our lives and how different are our lives. So I think that that's a very important space to watch. And as I said, many of the diaspora are very avid readers. So they would be looking for writings that reflect their lives. Not the lives that we imagine they would be leading, but the lives that they are actually leading. So, and related to that is also the fact that it's an online world. It's a world which is much more connected than it ever was. So that also highlights the importance, and that brings us back to what Smita had been saying about the online platforms. And I completely agree. Smita, I think we need to take that thread up again. About how the online platforms and which online platforms you think are working well to give space to new voices, to amplify the old ones also. So please tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you, Shalini. You have touched upon one of my favorite subject when it comes to writing, especially for aspiring and new writers. So, I honestly think online platforms are crucial for emerging voices, more so for a region like South Asia. Now, these literary magazines and digital journals, they make it possible for writers to reach global audiences without the traditional barriers. So I have had my stories published in Kitab and Muse India, which are India specific journals. And I, even before my first book was published, I was published in global platforms like Wow, Unleash Press, Auroras and Blossoms. All of this ensure that I have some sort of audience among international readers. So, what online platform has made it possible is that it gives writers an opportunity to share work with readers who don't pick up a full-fledged fiction book otherwise. And I, for a fact, know many people in my own circle who would rather read something quick. So those bite-sized, easily consumable and digestible information. And for them, picking up a book, a novel, a fiction book, it seems intimidating. They often have no interest because for them, fiction is like, I don't agree as a writer, but many people perceive, okay, fiction is something while it engages us emotionally, there is nothing to learn vis-a-vis non-fiction. And for them, for this set in particular, I have found that they have read more of my short collection books that I have authored rather than the novel. And apart from this, I would say the confidence it gives to emerging voices, that is unparalleled. So the first major contest that I won as a writer was for the US based Women on Writing called Wow. That was before my first novel was published. Now, now when we are talking, I am here after authoring 4 books. I'm confident as a writer. I'm very sure about my craft. But that was not something, that was not where I was 4 years ago or even 3 years ago. So these sort of platforms where you don't have to wait before your book is published, you can write, you can give your best, and you can immediately put it out in circulation. It gives you confidence when you get the reader's feedback, you gauge their response, not only in terms of whether they are liking or not liking the story, but also in terms of suggestions that this is how it could have been better. It really contributes to the growth of a writer. For me personally, I know they have contributed to my own writing tremendously. I also have my own blogs as a writer. In fact, I have 2 blogs as a writer and as a coach, which is my profession. And that blog is amongst the top 25 blogs in India. Now, again, this is something which has given an unsure beginner like me craft the confidence to come to forums such as Ananke and talk about her experience and share her views. This would not have been possible, or maybe the journey would have been a lot more difficult had these platforms not been there. And apart from that, I would say like we have these social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They've really democratized writing. allowing authors to engage directly with readers. For me personally, platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram have allowed me to build that authentic connection with my readers and share the journey behind my books. And beyond this obvious exposure, I would say there's also something more fundamental for us as writers. Now, these platforms allow writers to build their own identity, not just as creators, but also as storytellers who define their niche and connect with a like minded audience. Writers can share their work, build a community, and get feedback instantly. So, this agency that is now available to us as an authors, this is, this is not confined to a particular geography. And this is something I feel incredibly powerful in an age, especially in this age where literary landscape can be monopolized by a few when it comes to the more traditional medium. So I would say this online platforms, they have provided writers like us like with an ecosystem that's not just about discovering new voices, but about celebrating diverse voices. And with that, I would also like to hear from Sujata, her views about these online platforms. What do you have to add here, Sujata?
You have put it very beautifully, and I will like to add on to what you have said, that this is, I think, the best time for short story writers. Now we say social media, we waste so much of time on this social media, this and that. But I think for writer, this is a kind of a blessing. There are primarily no gatekeepers at all. You just write whatever you want, and you don't know, you can find your readers everywhere. In any part of the world, you can find your reader. And if your work is good, I think your work will speak for itself. So, and this is all for most of the these kind of platforms are free, easily accessible to everyone. Whether you can put on Twitter, you can have your blog or Insta or wherever you want to put. You can put short stories, you can put your various views, and you don't know that some one fine day you will get a book deal on your work. And I
Yes.
remember the name, I think Minakshi Reddy. She was writing a blog, Compulsive Confessions. And she wrote that blog under a pseudonym. And I think after a year or so, she got a book deal by Penguin. So you don't know where your blogs will lead you, and it is a very nice thing because otherwise we have to send our work to a publisher and a new voices, and it's not easy for the new voices to be. But here, you just whatever you want to write, you write, and you never know, you'll find a very good readership. So we have to make use of social media. Social media is there for everyone. So it's up to us how we make use of it.
Yes, absolutely, Sujata. And I especially resonated with your point that we can just keep on writing. That's the liberty that short stories gives us. And after a period of time when we write consistently, we don't even know, but we have a book in the making. So that's the advantage of this format. Uh, Now, with on that note, Devapriya, I would like to ask you, what helps a short story travel across regions, languages, and cultures?
Smita, I think the emotions. Yes, because yeah, no matter which language you speak, no matter people like us. I mean, we speak such a lot of Bengali at home. We're going out and we're having to communicate in English, but the moment you make me angry, I'm going to blast that person in my mother tongue. It is the beauty of that emotion that it transcends regions and languages, and not just geographical barriers, but these regional boundaries that we human beings have created. I mean, for all you know, India could have been one huge country without states.
Yes.
Right. So, when my son travels from Calcutta to Dehradun to study, he'd be feeling the same homesickness as a child from South India is feeling, when he's gone to the same university. So the author will recognize the human emotion, and he's going to put it in writing with the hope that the person who will be reading it will read it in whichever language it's served, but interpret it in his own language.
Right. Yes. So emotions, and I can't agree with you more here, Devapriya, because it's the emotion. It's how you connect with your reader, irrespective of the language, irrespective of the setting, that makes a difference. Sujata. So Devapriya said emotions. What's your take on the
Yeah,
subject?
of course, emotions are universal. Emotions of love, loss, hate, they are universal. And in whichever language a story is written, I think these emotions everybody can relate to it. So,
Yes.
and translation is another thing through which stories travel. And translations are coming like, whether the story is originally written in Japanese or in whichever language. So through translations, also stories travel. And as we said earlier, that social media
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
and online channels, other kind of platforms, they help in circulating the story from one part of the world to another. But a story written beautifully, which people can relate to, I think it will just transfer.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So relatability. And you said translation, Sujata. I mean, the Booker Prize winner, The Tombs of Sand, that book winning is a result of translation between two writers across different continents. That's such a beautiful example of what we are talking about here. So, yeah, emotions, translation, social media. Shalini, I'll come to hear your take on this subject.
I think most of it is already there coming from everybody. So, yes, it is the connect first. So, two things, connect and accessibility. Connect, we are seeing, as all of us pointed out, abundant proof. We are connecting with Korean literature. People outside are connecting with Kannada literature. So, it is obviously a universal sentiment that stories capture and they travel. The second is accessibility. So translation is probably the biggest factor, and I think this is probably a boom of translations that is happening right now, and I think it's very exciting because it's not just the stories that are traveling, cultures are traveling. Practices are traveling, ways of life are traveling. So it is, it's very, very interesting to see that. Secondly, collaborations, like Sujata said, adaptation, bringing stories home, even adapting them to the place that they're traveling to make them more palatable. So that goes a huge way in spreading short stories. And then lastly, like we said, social media, flash fictions. I mean, flash fictions, if you look at the number of contests that are happening and the number of entries that are there, if you read winning flash fiction entries, a lot of them are completely culture, region agnostic. They're just capturing what we came to start with, the emotion. So I think flash and shorter adaptations is also a very important way that stories travel. Like you also pointed out, the attention spans are shorter, so the chances of a novel traveling are less than flash or microfictions or short stories. So I think that is how short stories travel, and they find homes in hearts across the world, not just where they've been written or where they've been written for. And of course, our diaspora helps in spreading our short stories when they read us, because that is a very defined. It is a huge segment of readership, actually. That's how short stories travel, is my take. And I think that currently, the times that we're living in, actually, we will see a lot more of short stories happening and traveling to other parts. The boom, both in the translation part and the boom in the audiovisual space. because of the OTT, the adaptability of different kinds of stories is more as compared to the big theaters where everything is a formula based thing. So I feel that short stories have a huge opportunity over there. Maybe not the very short ones, but the novella length ones, the simple, uncluttered storylines. I think they will work very well for adaptation. So that's just something that remains to be seen, and I hope that all that happens and all of us get to see our stories on screen one day. But whether that happens or not, or rather whenever that happens, meanwhile, I think we all agree that South Asian short fiction has evolved in a very interesting way, like I said, in a very rich way. And it is a very significant part of the body of literature today. Both short stories and South Asian voices. So they come together to form an extremely powerful segment of literature. It is a segment which I feel that, it remains shaped by even our ancient traditions somewhat, by our cultures, by our encounters with English language and its staying, and the current global interface that is happening. So I feel that all of these are getting reflected in South Asian short stories today. And I think that it is easily, we're seeing genres which were not touched to that extent. Today we are seeing a lot of science fiction, we're seeing a lot of speculative fiction, we are seeing linked short stories come up. These are new trends. And I think these are a proof of how dynamic this form is in modern Indian literature. And I'm sure that, as we end this panel discussion, all of you will agree that, it's a very exciting time to be a reader, of course, but also a writer and a writer of short stories. And I think that all of us can evolve our craft a lot by being writers at this time. So, with that, I absolutely, thank all of you for this really, really enlightening and very illuminating discussion. It's been a complete pleasure to have the three of you here, Devapriya, Smita, and Sujata. All of you were awesome. Best of luck for all your short stories and long ones too. And a very, very huge thank you to Sabin and Ananke and Dipankar and the team at Readomania for giving all of us, on behalf of all of you, I take the pleasure to thank Ananke and Readomania for giving us this absolutely lovely platform and such an insightful topic, which I think has left us all craving to go back and start writing at least one short story right now. So
Definitely.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.